Hello Golden State Warriors fans. We are here once again to bring you the latest news related to our team, and I would like to emphasize how committed we are to improving our performance to achieve great results. Before we dive into this intriguing news, I kindly request you to show your support by clicking the like button, and if you are not yet subscribed to our channel, I invite you all to join us on an exciting journey. Remember to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything.
Danny Green recently explained why he believes Draymond Green is, in many ways, a more valuable player in today's NBA than Jalen Brunson. The timing of the discussion isn't random. In 2023, Draymond signed a 4-year, $100 million extension with the Golden State Warriors, a deal that immediately sparked debate. Critics argued he wasn't worth that kind of money. Others insisted his value goes far beyond what traditional stats can capture. The Warriors have been the defining team of the past decade, winning 4 championships and reaching 6 NBA Finals. Very few players were present for every one of those runs, and Draymond Green is one of them. His reputation as a relentless, disruptive defender has made him a polarizing figure. He has been criticized for his confrontational style and on-court antics, but the truth remains, every championship banner the Warriors hung in the last 10 years carries his fingerprints. Still, Draymond's impact has always been more complicated to measure. He doesn't pile up points, he doesn't dominate a box score, and he's never been the type of star who dazzles offensively. That's part of what fuels the criticism surrounding his contract. For many fans, big money should equal big scoring. Danny Green, however, believes that view completely misses the point. As someone who faced the Warriors throughout his career, Danny Green has seen firsthand what Draymond brings to a team. He called him one of the most versatile defenders of the modern era, someone capable of guarding every position with intelligence, physicality, and instinct. Even without elite size for a frontcourt player, Draymond anchors Golden State's defense with an understanding of positioning few players possess. His communication, rotations, and ability to switch across the floor have shaped the Warriors' entire identity. Stephen Curry is the engine of Golden State's dynasty, and Klay Thompson, a star in his own right, has received widespread recognition for the Splash Brothers' legacy. But Draymond is often the one questioned, scrutinized, or undervalued because he doesn't provide the same offensive production. That's exactly why Danny Green stepped in to defend him. On the No Fouls Given podcast with Danny Green, Paul Pierce, and Wosny Lambra, the conversation took an interesting turn. Lambra argued that Jalen Brunson's offensive load makes him a more valuable player, saying, "Brunson carries the team and controls the offense in big moments. Jalen Brunson is better than Draymond." He emphasized that elite offense is harder to find than defense at Draymond's level. Danny Green strongly disagreed. "We're talking about defense that's impactful, game-changing, dominant," he responded. His defense is being compared to Jalen Brunson's offense. 9 all-defensive selections. How often do you find a guy who can do that? He pointed out that there are plenty of good defenders around the league, yet very few who have reached Draymond's consistency or influence on both ends of the court. Draymond has long cemented himself as a foundational piece of the Warriors' dynasty. Even if he eventually slows down, his legacy within the franchise is secure. Curry, Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Steve Kerr will always stand out in the story of Golden State's rise, but Draymond Green is just as essential to that narrative. His defensive brilliance, leadership, and unique playmaking have shaped the Warriors' system and identity for more than a decade. Many teams would love to have a player like him, someone who brings toughness, communication, IQ, and a willingness to do the unglamorous work that wins games. His impact is often more significant than people realize. And the fact that newer players are frequently compared to him shows how rare and influential his skill set truly is. In the end, Draymond Green's resume speaks louder than any criticism. For championships, multiple all-defensive honors, and an irreplaceable role in one of basketball's greatest dynasties. Whether everyone agrees with his contract or not, the Warriors have made it clear, they understand his value, and they rewarded it accordingly. But Danny Green's defense of Draymond didn't just spark a debate on the podcast, it reignited a familiar conversation across NBA circles. Analysts, former players, and fans began revisiting the broader question, how do we truly measure value in the NBA? And more specifically, why does Draymond Green continue to divide opinion despite years of proven success? Following the discussion, several analysts pointed out that Golden State's most successful seasons have directly aligned with Draymond's peak defensive years. When he anchors the defense at a high level, the Warriors function like a completely different team. Film analysts highlighted how his ability to anticipate plays, direct teammates in real time, and disrupt offensive schemes often swing games in ways that don't appear in box scores. Coaches around the league have long acknowledged that preparing for Draymond requires an entirely different level of game planning. The conversation around Jalen Brunson added another layer to the debate. Brunson, who has emerged as one of the most dynamic offensive leaders in the league, represents the type of player who carries a franchise with scoring and shot creation. His rise in New York has been spectacular, and many believe he deserves to be celebrated as one of the best defensive players in the NBA. But that comparison is exactly what made Danny Green's point resonate. Offense and defense are rarely judged by the same standards, even though both can define a championship. As the debate spread, a number of former players echoed Danny Green's perspective. Some noted that Draymond is one of the rare defenders who not only executes his assignment but elevates the performance of the entire unit around him. Others argued that his leadership, accountability, and willingness to challenge teammates, sometimes aggressively, have been crucial during pressure-filled postseason stretches. Within the Warriors organization, the sentiment remains consistent. Coaches and executives have repeatedly emphasized that Draymond's understanding of their system is unmatched. His ability to initiate offense, create angles for shooters, and serve as a secondary playmaker has allowed Golden State's style of basketball to flourish for nearly a decade. Even as his scoring output has diminished, his influence on both ends has remained vital. The public reaction, however, stayed divided. Supporters praised Draymond as one of the most intelligent and impactful defenders of his generation. Critics argued that modern NBA contracts should reward players who produce more traditional star numbers. The debate over how teams should allocate their salary cap continues to evolve, and Draymond's extension remains one of the clearest case studies of that tension. Still, one thing remains undeniable: his contributions go far beyond what highlights capture. Draymond has built a legacy rooted in intensity, sacrifice, and competitive fire. His ability to elevate stars like Curry and Thompson, stabilize the locker room, and set the emotional tone of the franchise has shaped Golden State's competitive DNA. As the Warriors enter the later stages of their championship window, Draymond's presence may become even more significant. Younger players on the roster look to him for defensive guidance and leadership. The coaching staff relies on his experience to anchor schemes that have defined the team for years. And while public perception may continue to swing back and forth, his place within the organization is secure. Danny Green's comments ultimately served as a reminder: value in the NBA can't be measured solely by points per game or scoring highlights. Sometimes it's the player who holds everything together, the one who controls the intangibles, who becomes the true difference maker. And for the Warriors, that player has been Draymond Green for more than a decade. Jonathan Kuminga is widely expected to be one of the notable young players who could hit the trade market before the NBA deadline. Before the season tipped off, the Golden State Warriors signed Kuminga to a 2-year, $48.5 million extension, ending a months-long standoff. But despite that investment, Golden State has struggled to feature him consistently, and his availability has been further limited by bilateral patellar tendinitis. Because of the extension, Kuminga cannot be moved until after January 15th. Once that date passes, however, the Warriors will have the option to explore offers, and two struggling teams are already being mentioned as potential suitors. According to NBA insider Brett Siegel of Clutch Points, both the Indiana Pacers and the New Orleans Pelicans are expected to show interest in Kuminga if Golden State signals a willingness to deal. With the Warriors sitting at 10-10 and searching for stability, many around the league believe they may adopt an aggressive approach, targeting win-now contributors who can immediately fortify their rotation. Adding a reliable defender and three-point shooter to the starting lineup has become a priority, and Kuminga is the Warriors' most valuable trade piece capable of helping them make that kind of upgrade. Siegel reports that Indiana and New Orleans are two teams worth watching closely. Besides the Pacers, another team the Warriors will likely talk to regarding Kuminga is the New Orleans Pelicans. Both Herb Jones and Trey Murphy III are players Golden State has real interest in, the type of versatile wings the Warriors would love to acquire in any deal involving Kuminga. The question now is not whether teams will call, but whether Golden State is truly ready to move him. With the Warriors hovering at .500, the organization is focused on getting healthy and navigating the toughest portion of their schedule. Once that stretch softens, the front office is expected to reassess the roster, identify specific needs, and determine how much value Kuminga could fetch on the open market. Given his youth, athleticism, and untapped upside, executives around the league believe Kuminga would return a strong trade package, and that may ultimately be too compelling for Golden State to ignore. If Golden State does choose to test the market, the internal debate will likely center on one question: how much patience do they still have for Kuminga's development curve? The front office has long believed in his physical tools and two-way potential, but the organization is also fully aware that their core, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, is running out of championship runway. Every season spent waiting on Kuminga to take the next leap is another season the franchise risks wasting what is left of its dynasty window. That is why teams like Indiana and New Orleans are monitoring the situation closely. League executives have noted that Kuminga's combination of size, athleticism, and downhill scoring ability would give both teams a young forward to build around for years. The Pacers, in particular, could pair him with Tyrese Halliburton to form one of the league's fastest and most explosive young tandems. Meanwhile, the Pelicans, with their uncertain long-term outlook around Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, see Kuminga as a player who could either complement their core or eventually replace a star should they reshuffle their roster. The potential ripple effects across the league are significant. A Kuminga trade would not only reshape Golden State's future, but could also impact the Western Conference playoff picture. By acquiring a defensive-minded wing like Herb Jones or a sharpshooter like Trey Murphy, Golden State would address two of its biggest weaknesses: perimeter defense and consistent off-ball spacing. Those upgrades could dramatically shift their ceiling for the second half of the season. Internally, the Warriors know that moving Kuminga would be a controversial decision. There are members of the organization who still view him as the franchise's next cornerstone, someone who could eventually lead the team into its post-Curry era. But the coaching staff's inconsistency in defining his role, combined with his recent injuries, has made the situation more complicated than ever. As the trade deadline approaches, Golden State will be under greater pressure to decide whether Kuminga is a long-term investment or their most valuable asset in a win-now move. Rival teams, meanwhile, are preparing their offers, fully aware that once January 15th arrives, the Warriors could instantly become one of the central players in the NBA's trade market. And if Golden State ultimately decides to move forward, the deal could end up being one of the off-season's most defining transactions, shaping the direction not only of the Warriors but of at least two other franchises looking to escape mediocrity. Bill Simmons has floated a three-team trade idea involving the Bulls, Mavericks, and Warriors, one he believes could quietly tilt in Golden State's favor. These three franchises have dominated trade discussions all season, each for their own reasons. The Chicago Bulls remain stuck in limbo, not strong enough to seriously contend in the East, yet not bad enough to commit fully to a rebuild and chase lottery odds. They need a move that finally gives the franchise a clear direction. The Dallas Mavericks are still reeling from the departure of Luka Doncic and the exit of former GM Nico Harrison. They urgently need roster moves that set a new foundation and give Cooper Flagg a realistic path to success. Golden State, meanwhile, is viewed by many around the league as one bold trade away from returning to title contention. With Jonathan Kuminga as their most valuable trade chip, Bill Simmons believes that adding Daniel Gafford could give the Warriors a legitimate chance to win playoff rounds again. Given the current landscape, Simmons proposed a three-team exchange that he argues would benefit all sides, especially Golden State. What if it were Kuminga to Chicago, Kobe White to Dallas, and then Gafford, on an expiring contract, going to Golden State? Simmons suggested, if the Warriors could turn Kuminga into Gafford somehow, I'm not saying they'd make the finals, but I think it gives them a real chance to win a couple rounds, he added. For Golden State, the logic is straightforward. The team desperately needs a dependable center, especially with Al Horford struggling with both performance and availability. Daniel Gafford would give the Warriors a stable athletic presence in the paint, something the roster has been lacking for years. Kobe White, in turn, would address Dallas' need for a ball-handling guard who can create offense and support Cooper Flagg as the Mavericks reshape their identity. White offers youth, playmaking, and the potential to grow into a long-term partner for Flagg. Chicago, for its part, can afford to move on from White given its roster construction. As Simmons put it, they misread the D'Lo situation. I tried to warn people, and Kyrie got mad at me. If they had someone who could handle the ball, shoot, and actually care about getting others involved, that would help Flagg. For the Bulls, Jonathan Kuminga would bring much-needed athleticism, upside, and physicality. Pairing him with Josh Giddey could reshape their half-court offense, giving Chicago far more versatility and flexibility in how they attack defenses. In Simmons' view, each team walks away with something meaningful, but it's Golden State that could walk away with a piece that finally stabilizes its frontcourt and revives its playoff hopes. Simmons' proposal also sparked debate among executives and analysts who believe the Warriors are approaching a crossroads. Golden State has invested heavily in keeping its core together, but the results have been inconsistent, and the roster's structural flaws, most notably the lack of a true interior anchor, have become harder to ignore. For those who view Gafford as one of the league's most underrated rim protectors, the idea of pairing him with Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler has generated significant interest. Within the Warriors organization, there is an understanding that any move involving Kuminga would require a strong return. While still developing, Kuminga has shown flashes of becoming a high-level two-way forward. Yet the coaching staff has struggled to find a consistent role for him, and his fit next to Golden State's veterans remains an open question. That uncertainty has made league insiders speculate that the Warriors could be more open than ever to leveraging his value in pursuit of immediate help. On the Dallas side, the repercussions of such a trade would be significant. The Mavericks have been searching for a lead guard who can ease the burden on Cooper Flagg and help stabilize their offense in late-game situations. Kobe White's growth as a playmaker and shot creator has turned him into a legitimate target for teams seeking a young guard with upside. Adding him would give Dallas a long-term backcourt solution rather than relying on stopgap options. For Chicago, landing Kuminga would not only bring youth and athleticism but also allow the team to reshape its developmental timeline. Pairing him with Josh Giddey creates a dynamic combination of size, pace, and versatility. Some scouts believe that Kuminga's strengths, attacking downhill, defending multiple positions, and generating pressure at the rim, could turn him into a centerpiece of a new Bulls offensive identity. League reaction to Simmons' idea has been mixed but intrigued. Some argue that Golden State would finally address its most glaring weakness, while others believe that giving up Kuminga could leave the Warriors without a long-term successor to their aging core. Still, the notion of adding a reliable center capable of running the floor, setting sturdy screens, and anchoring the defense has widespread support among analysts who feel the Warriors are one move away from stabilizing a chaotic season. As the trade deadline approaches, these teams will continue to search for clarity. Whether or not Simmons' blueprint becomes a real possibility, his proposal has reignited discussions about how each franchise should approach the next phase of its evolution, and whether the Warriors are ready to trade potential for certainty in pursuit of one more deep playoff run. Steve Kerr has shed light on what's been missing from Jimmy Butler this season, and it has everything to do with Stephen Curry. The Golden State Warriors have struggled to find any sort of consistency. What began as a promising title-level start has unraveled quickly. Losses to a Giannis-less Milwaukee team, a slumping Indiana Pacers squad, and the rebuilding Portland Trail Blazers exposed deep vulnerabilities in Golden State's roster and rotations. Kerr could easily point to the schedule, the injuries affecting stars like Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler, or the ongoing complications surrounding Jonathan Kuminga. But he believes the root of the problem runs deeper. According to Kerr, one of the Warriors' biggest shortcomings has been Butler's reduced impact when tasked with leading the second unit, an area where the organization expected him to thrive. Part of the appeal in adding Jimmy was knowing we'd stay strong in the minutes when Steph wasn't on the floor, Kerr said. But we haven't played at that level this season. We still haven't found the right rhythm with the second unit around Jimmy. He added, one of the advantages of having Jimmy Butler is that you can play him at any time, whether Steph is on the court or not. I know we're better than what we've shown so far. The numbers back him up. Golden State's net rating sits at plus 1.72 with Curry on the floor, but it drops to minus 0.40 the moment he sits. Their three-point shooting splits tell an even harsher story, 39.78% with Curry versus just 32.92% without him. For a team with as much talent as the Warriors, such a steep drop-off is alarming. Kerr knows they can't afford to be this dependent on Curry, especially in a Western Conference where every slip in performance pushes them closer to the play-in range. We have enough talent to play well, with or without Steph, Kerr emphasized. Of course we'll be at our best when he's out there. But we need to be more consistent in the minutes he rests. Last season, the Warriors posted a plus 13.12 net rating when Curry sat but Butler anchored the lineup. This year that number has tumbled to just plus 5.67. Still positive, but not nearly enough to withstand tougher competition or compensate for Curry's absences. For Golden State to re-enter the title picture, Kerr and Butler must solve this puzzle. Their ability to restore stability to the second unit could ultimately determine whether the Warriors remain fringe contenders or rediscover the form that made them dangerous at the start of the year. The decline in Butler's impact has forced Golden State to reconsider the structure of its rotations. Internally, members of the coaching staff acknowledge that the second unit lacks the identity and defensive stability that Butler was expected to bring. In Miami, Butler thrived as a steadying force who controlled tempo, generated efficient offense, and elevated the play of role players. But the Warriors' system places different demands on him: faster pace, more off-ball actions, and a roster without the same defensive discipline he was accustomed to. Some team insiders believe Butler is still adjusting to Golden State's motion-heavy offense and the responsibility of functioning as the primary creator when Curry sits. Without a consistent pick-and-roll partner and with the second unit's three-point shooting dipping sharply, Butler has often been forced into difficult mid-range attempts or low-efficiency isolations, shots that were once complemented by Miami's spacing and structure but now come under pressure as the Warriors' bench struggles. The ripple effects have become more visible with each loss. When the Warriors' offense stagnates during Curry's rest periods, the starters are repeatedly forced to play extended minutes just to keep games within reach. Draymond Green and Al Horford, both deep into their careers, have openly acknowledged the physical toll this is taking. Golden State has already shown signs of fatigue late in games, a pattern that threatens to worsen as the season progresses. Opposing teams have also adjusted their defensive schemes. Several scouting reports around the league describe a simple strategy: stay home on shooters when Butler is orchestrating, close driving lanes, and force the ball out of his hands. Without Curry stretching the floor to the breaking point, defenses have found it significantly easier to load up against Butler-led units. This dynamic has raised questions about whether Golden State needs to alter the composition of its bench. Some analysts argue that Kerr may need to pair Butler with more shooting and rim pressure, even if it means reshuffling minutes or experimenting with unconventional lineups. Others suggest that the Warriors' front office may eventually have to explore mid-season trades to bolster the second unit if they want to avoid overtaxing their stars. Still, there remains confidence within the organization that Butler can find his footing. Kerr has reiterated that Butler's leadership, physicality, and playmaking are still essential to their long-term plans. The expectation is that as Butler becomes more comfortable with the offense, and as players like Brandon Podziemski, Moses Moody, and DeAnthony Melton settle into more defined roles, the second unit will grow more cohesive. But the clock is ticking. The Western Conference race is tightening, and Golden State can't afford prolonged stretches of poor performance when Curry rests. How quickly Butler and Kerr manage to repair the second unit could determine whether the Warriors crawl out of play-in territory, or slip even further behind the teams they once expected to compete with for home court advantage. For now, the solution remains a work in progress, but the urgency is unmistakable. The Warriors know that their margin for error has vanished, and their ability to stabilize the minutes without Curry may define their entire season. Steve Kerr has shared new insights into DeAnthony Melton's progress in practice, and when the guard might finally make his season debut. The Golden State Warriors have been riding an uneven start, sitting at 10-10 and still searching for consistency. The situation grew more complicated after their 104-100 loss to the Houston Rockets, a game that also saw Stephen Curry go down with a thigh contusion. Curry is expected to miss about a week, and while the Warriors are relieved that the injury isn't more serious, losing their franchise star, even briefly, comes at a difficult moment. With Curry sidelined, Golden State will need to find ways to stay afloat. One bit of encouraging news: DeAnthony Melton may be returning soon. Veterans Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green didn't hold back after the loss, openly criticizing the team's defensive effort. The Warriors now sit 8th in a stacked Western Conference, just 2.5 games away from climbing into the top 6, but just as close to falling further behind. Without Curry, Golden State will need multiple players to step up and stabilize the team. They're also counting on Melton's return, as he nears the end of his recovery from a torn ACL. According to Kerr, Melton has shown strong progress and could see the floor during the team's upcoming road trip. Kerr said Melton went through the full practice and continues to respond well to the recovery plan. He'll miss the remainder of the current homestand, but there's a real chance he could suit up once we hit the road. What DeAnthony Melton's return means for the Warriors. Once Melton is back in the rotation, Golden State plans to use him primarily as a defender on opposing guards, even though offensively, he operates more like a combo wing. Last season, Kerr experimented heavily with ultra-small lineups featuring Melton, pairing him with Curry, Gary Payton II, Brandon Podziemski, and Buddy Hield. Melton won't be inserted into the starting lineup right away, but he'll have the opportunity to earn a larger role as he regains rhythm and conditioning. In smaller looks, the Warriors could roll out a group of Curry, Melton, Moses Moody, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. In bigger lineups, Melton would likely come off the bench as someone like Quinton Post fills the starting spot. Melton's return won't solve everything, But his defensive instincts, toughness and ability to stretch the floor may be exactly what Golden State needs as they navigate this stretch without their superstar. Melton's potential return also comes at a moment when the Warriors are being forced to confront deeper issues that go far beyond injuries. Internally, the coaching staff has expressed concern about the team's inconsistent defensive habits and the lack of cohesion in late-game situations, an area where Golden State once thrived. According to team sources, Kerr and his assistants have emphasized sharper rotations and cleaner communication on the defensive end, especially with Curry unavailable to bail them out offensively. The hope is that Melton's presence can help stabilize the perimeter defense, an area that has quietly become one of the team's biggest weaknesses this season. Golden State's struggles have also sparked criticism from former players and analysts around the league. Several commentators noted that the Warriors' identity, once built on pace, spacing and relentless ball movement, has become harder to recognize. Others have suggested that Kerr's reliance on smaller lineups has left the team vulnerable against more physical opponents. In the locker room, players have acknowledged the urgency of the moment. Draymond Green admitted that the team cannot rely on Curry to fix games every night, stressing the need for a collective response. Jimmy Butler, who has been vocal since the loss in Houston, said the Warriors' defensive lapses are correctable, but only if the group commits to doing the small things with more discipline. The Warriors face a critical stretch in the schedule, with several road games against playoff-level opponents. Without Curry, they will need to lean more heavily on Andrew Wiggins, Brandon Podziemski, and Moses Moody for shot creation, while also counting on Butler's two-way impact to set the tone. For Melton, the coming weeks could represent an unexpected opportunity. Before his injury, he was viewed as a low-risk signing who could provide depth. Now, he might become a key piece in stabilizing a team that has drifted from its identity. His ability to pressure the ball, fight through screens, and hit timely perimeter shots could help relieve some of the burden on the Warriors' veterans. If Melton returns and performs well, Golden State may finally regain some of the defensive sharpness that carried them through their championship years. If not, the Warriors could find themselves slipping even further down the standings, increasing pressure on the coaching staff and front office to make adjustments. As Kerr put it during his most recent media availability, "We're not far from where we need to be, but the margin for error is smaller now. We need everyone available, locked in, and ready to contribute." For the Warriors, Melton's return isn't just about getting another body back. It's about regaining stability, rediscovering identity, and proving they can compete while waiting for their superstar to heal. Stephen Curry's injury might end up being a blessing in disguise for one Warriors player, and surprisingly, it's not Brandon Podziemski. The Golden State Warriors will now be without Curry for an extended stretch. According to Shams Charania, Curry is expected to miss roughly a week or more after suffering a thigh contusion during Golden State's 104-100 loss to the Houston Rockets. For the Warriors, the timing couldn't be worse. The team has struggled badly whenever Curry leaves the floor this season, and his absence exposes just how dependent they remain on their superstar. Complicating matters further, Jimmy Butler still hasn't settled into a rhythm that allows him to consistently anchor the offense when Curry sits. With the Warriors facing a difficult slate, including the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder, they will be forced to find new sources of playmaking. And that's where an unexpected opportunity emerges. Curry's injury may turn out to be a breakthrough moment for reserve guard Pat Spencer. With Curry unavailable, someone must step in to handle the ball, create offense, and keep the team organized. While Brandon Podziemski is still firmly in the rotation, Steve Kerr has been increasingly vocal in praising Spencer, signaling growing trust in the 29-year-old guard. Even after the loss to Houston, Kerr highlighted the spark Spencer brought to the offense. "Pat needs to start the fourth quarter. He's given us good minutes off the bench early this season, and he helped us find an offensive rhythm," Kerr said. Spencer's playing time has jumped from 6.4 to 12.6 minutes per game this year, and his scoring has doubled from 2.5 to 4.8 points per game. His three-point shooting has also taken a sizable step forward, rising from 22.7% to 33.3%. Kerr's increased confidence in him has been impossible to ignore. Kerr has also praised Spencer for taking care of the ball, a quality he values deeply. Spencer is averaging just 0.7 turnovers per game, a strong indicator of his poise and control as a primary ball handler. The numbers back up the trust Kerr has placed in him. With increased minutes, Spencer has produced 4.8 points and 2.6 assists per game, showing steady improvement and a growing comfort in the system. Now, with Curry expected to miss multiple games, Spencer is poised to see his role expand even further. Kerr clearly believes that greater opportunity can translate into meaningful production from Spencer during this crucial stretch without Golden State's offensive centerpiece. For a Warriors team searching for answers, Spencer's emergence may come at exactly the right time. Spencer's emergence also highlights a broader shift within the Warriors' rotation, one that has been slowly developing but is now impossible to ignore. With the roster dealing with injuries, inconsistency, and an evolving identity, Kerr has shown a willingness to reward steadiness and reliability over pedigree or draft status. Spencer, an undrafted guard who entered the league with little fanfare, has become a clear beneficiary of that philosophy. Internally, several members of the coaching staff have noted that Spencer's pace, decision-making, and willingness to stick to the system have made him one of the most dependable second-unit players in recent weeks. His approach contrasts with some of the more volatile performances the Warriors have seen from younger players, who tend to fluctuate between highlight moments and costly mistakes. The ripple effects of Spencer's increased role are already being felt. With him taking on more of the ball-handling responsibilities, Golden State has been able to shift Podziemski into more off-ball actions, where his movement and shooting are more effective. Moses Moody has also benefited, as Spencer's controlled tempo has allowed the second unit to get cleaner looks and avoid rushed possessions. Around the league, analysts have begun to take notice as well. Several commentators have pointed out that Spencer's confidence looks noticeably higher, and that he appears far more comfortable initiating the offense than he did a season ago. Some have even argued that his steadiness may force Kerr to rethink the guard hierarchy once the team becomes fully healthy. But the true test will come in the next stretch of games. With Curry out and the Warriors facing a tougher schedule, Spencer will be tasked with managing long offensive droughts, maintaining control in fourth-quarter minutes, and helping prevent the Warriors from falling further in the Western Conference standings. Kerr has hinted that Spencer will not simply inherit Curry's minutes, but he will be expected to provide structure, create advantages, and stabilize lineups that have struggled to generate consistent offense. In a season marked by volatility, Spencer's reliability could quickly become one of Golden State's most valuable assets. If he continues to deliver, the guard could carve out a long-term role that goes well beyond this brief window. And for a Warriors team fighting to stay competitive while waiting for their superstar to recover, that development may prove to be one of the most important silver linings of the season.